Something else I'd thought about, and I know that DX1, who's one of our old legendary listeners there, Matt, he emailed me something really fascinating. He said it was a really long paragraph, so I'm not going to do him justice with what I say here. But the gist of it, Matt, and I thought this was a really good point, is that I'm sure you remember, Matt, back in WCW when the cruiserweight division was literally introduced. You know, you had the whole NWO stuff going on, all these quite high profile storylines with these main event guys, and then you had the cruiserweight division, and you know it was fast. It was something completely different. And what DX1 was saying is that over time, because wrestling's evolved so much, we now get to see guys like Kevin Owens do kind of like what the cruiserweights were doing in sort of '96, which at the time, guys like Hogan, Nash, and Hall, they were not doing those kind of moves. But now we've got wrestlers that are so evolved, so good at being agile and everything else, like Finn Balor, that in a way, the cruiserweight style is already, it kind of interlinks with everything anyway, and it's very hard to distinguish that they have a certain style. And the only time he said he'd seen a real difference was during the tournament. But since it's come on to this 205 thing, it looks, the way they book it even, and I do get what he's saying, it's very similar to everything else that's going on. And the wrestlers that we have on both shows, you could argue, Matt, that we see that style with a few of the other guys that are not exclusive to 205, but we see that style anyway. So there's not even like they've got their own thing going on. It's almost like it is all intertwining with everything. Is that a fair comment, Matt? Do you think that's part of the problem, or is it more about the presentation, or is it just the talent?
Yeah, that's a very interesting point there, and I'm going to agree with that one totally, because when it was on the tournament, we did have 32 different guys from all around the world bringing their own unique wrestling style, and that's what we were shown. But it just seems since then, WWE's had that opportunity to drill into them, their way of doing things. You must do it this, must do it that way, and it is very limiting. And like you said, when you see people like Kevin Owens who shouldn't be able to do those things that he can do, it really does sort of make it hard to distinguish, like, what is so special about 205? In a way, it almost kind of makes you feel like they're limited. Like, well, they're in the 205 division because they're not big enough to compete with the bigger guys.
It does.
Like damaging to them.
Yeah, I think it is, because I think it's like when you see Jack Gallagher come out for this year's Royal Rumble. I mean, come on. There's no way he's ever going to have a chance, cat and hell's chance of winning that. I mean, it's just a comedy thing, and they do that because maybe Vince is likes that character, but it's a bit of it's flawed because he's in that division. It's like, well, they're not even going to. There's no way any of those guys are going to be winning the main title. They're not going to win the Royal Rumble, that's for sure. So you feel like maybe they are they have that stigma on them almost. So maybe it does make it worse. I mean, Matt, if you think even further back, you remember Zack Sabre Jr., who did not sign, Zack Sabre, who didn't sign the contract, Matt. He didn't even want to sort of, he was no way, his hands were clean after that tournament, Matt, and everybody thought, oh, that's the guy you've got to sign, you've got to get him. And, everyone thought, yeah, they'll build the whole thing around him. Even he, Matt, must have foreseen what was going to happen here. And you'd probably say he's probably made the right move, hasn't he?
Yeah. I mean, that's what I said earlier. You've got to know what you're worth in yourself.
Yeah.
And great foresight for him to see, that it would not be the place for him to go, because I've been watching him since then in New Japan and that, and he's just been killing it over there. And his matches is just so interesting to watch. He's coming out with wrestling holds that I've never even seen before.
I totally agree with that. He's an amazing talent, but you got to say, I think if you can make a decent living in doing that, I think you stick with that. I mean, it's a bit like Kenny Omega, who people were saying, no, they need to get him in, and he needs WWE. I don't know that he needs WWE quite as much as what people think. I mean, to be quite honest with you, if he's making decent enough money, and I'm sure he is because he's at the top end out there, and that's how it works. I mean, if you are at the top end, you're going to make the money, but it's if you're sort of trying to make your way up, it gets harder in Japan because you haven't got as much other stuff. But I mean, if you get into that sort of Bullet Club zone, I mean, you're making a lot of merch as well because everybody's wearing that damn T-shirt, that's for sure. But the thing is, Matt, I mean, it's not like now where Yeah, and this is something I'm sure we'll bring up next week as well. But we might as well talk about it here, Matt. Let's talk about Cody Rhodes. He left WWE. People were sort of up and down whether it was the right move. Should he have been expecting more than he was? But full credit to him. He's gone off. He's done his own thing. He's making a name for himself. And to be quite honest with you, I mean, from what I'm hearing, he's making better money than he was in WWE. And he's also, the reputation that he's now got is probably exactly what he always wanted, being credited as a great performer, not just as the, of course, infamous Stardust character, which, he played amazingly, by the way, for a guy that wasn't passionate about it. I mean, he never looked like he downplayed it when I ever saw him. So my hat's off to him there as well, because he must have been very professional. But if you're a guy and you think of the legacy of his dad, and you got his brother there as well, that must have been quite a difficult move to come up and say, well, I need to be let go. I need to go and find myself. And let's be honest, mate. You look at Drew McIntyre; he'd done the same thing, and Jinder Mahal also did the same thing. I'm not so sure it's a bad thing anymore for guys to go away. And you know what? If you don't come back, you don't come back. But I mean, at least you have a go of it. And I don't know, it's always about coming back sometimes now for some of these guys. For you, Matt, Cody Rhodes, I'm guessing 100% that it was the right move for you as well, for him to be parting ways with WWE earlier.
Oh yeah, 100%. He's more than just a name, He's got more than just the Rhodes name behind him, and he's at that point now where he can just walk into any company, WWE included. I'm sure if he asked, if he wanted to come back, they'd have no problem just giving him a role there, and probably much more higher than what he was a few years ago. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you hear about it more and more, Matt. About you mentioned earlier about Neville perhaps seeking going elsewhere. You look at what happened with Austin Aries. The thing is now, Matt, because of the internet. Listen, the Indies, 6-7 years ago, even as early as that, it was hard to see all these things. But now with streaming and the internet, this stuff, you can get hold of it. I mean, if you want to see Ring of Honor, if you want to see Japan, you can see it. It's not like it used to be, where the only show in town was WWE. Now it is in terms of sort of terrestrial TV, or depending on what in America. But if you think about it, Matt, if you're a diehard pro wrestling fan, then you can see this stuff anywhere. And let's be honest, I mean, the money some of these guys are making, maybe not in Impact Wrestling, but everywhere else, it's not that bad anymore. I mean, you can make a decent living, and I think that's what's changed. I mean, I think WWE before had the leverage because, you'd see guys that were stuck in WWE for sort of decades almost, and you'd think, God damn, they must be getting fed up. But they'd stay there because of the contracts and the fact there was nowhere else to go, and you might have taken a gamble with TNA, but it was never, even that was never a sure thing. Whereas now, there are other places to go, and and they would have seen the likes of AJ Styles go to Japan. They would have seen the likes of Kenny Omega make a name for himself, Shinsuke Nakamura, all these names outside of WWE that they are as big as names as sometimes people at one time. I don't know so much now, but let's say at one time Matt would have said Shinsuke Nakamura and John Cena are on the same level at one time, Matt. When he was in Japan, they would have said these two massive iconic stars in their own countries. So the availability is now out there, Matt. Do you think that's going to become a common theme now for some of these guys, especially the guys, Matt, that have come up the indie circuit anyway, and they're maybe not sort of WWE creation as such? Do you think that's going to become a more sort of common theme now? We're going to hear about guys leaving because they don't like where the direction that things are going in, so they end up cutting ties with WWE.
Yeah, and I don't really think that's a bad thing because it just creates superstars. Like you can go into WWE and make a name for yourself there, even, and if you're not getting where you need to be, leave and go to another company. I think it's very healthy in the business. It's what we've been missing since WCW. Yeah. That was always the thing back then. If you didn't like what was going on in one company, you could always switch and go to another. And, that would be healthy for you and for the business as a whole, because it was two different products that could create superstars and sort of chop and change it. If one bit didn't fit, just go to another company and then, perhaps you'll get a title opportunity, and then that's how you break through. And then you can come back to the other company, say 5 years down the line, and you can reinvent yourself.
One name springs to mind. Cesaro should have done that, in my opinion. Oh, yeah, totally. God damn, he could have been such a massive star now in Japan. If you think about the way he works and the strong style, they would have loved him. They'd have lapped that guy up, no doubt about it. But obviously, he's sticking to it. Hats off to him. Okay, let's talk about some other things that have happened during this time. When we touched on it, big thing, Jinder Mahal. He's the current WWE champion, Matt, the modern day Maharaj, all the rest of it. You said that, you like him since he's come back, Matt, but, the finishes have been a little bit sort of hit and miss with trying to get him over. But it reminds me, Matt, of the JBL push. It reminds me of, when he got the title. Because if you remember, I think JBL was like 3 weeks out before he won the title. He was tagging with Farouk. And that's how quick that whole character came along, with that whole, JBL type character and the stock exchange and all the rest of it. And the music and the limo and all things like that were happening. But, that worked out. He was I think he was at the time the longest reigning SmackDown champion, and it sort of rode into WrestleMania against John Cena on that bandwagon. With Jinder Mahal, Matt, do you see, because people thought, we'll only have the title for a month. It's just a month thing. And then they'll change it. But, we talk about from when we left off at WrestleMania, Matt. Let's think about it. Their title match was, of course, the infamous Bray Wyatt Randy Orton match. That I wish to forget that as quick as I can. That whole feud and that match. I'm trying to blank it out of my memory. But, I actually did give WrestleMania a thumbs up this year because I thought it was better than last year's. But that match really wasn't good for me. I did not enjoy any of that, especially the. I don't want to go back into it too much because it's just making more memories for me. But they're bringing them back. They're like flashbacks. But the whole lighting in the ring and that bloody special effects and all the rest of it was diabolical. But Matt, so that, they literally said, right, we're not having that anymore. Randy Orton, he's going to drop the title. Dropped it to Jinder Mahal. As a champion, Matt, I mean, he looks believable, doesn't he? I mean, the guy's. He's a big guy now. He looks solid. I mean, what do you take from his character, man? Is he doing a good enough job? Is he there yet? Has he got it down to a T? Because I know, people were a little bit sort of like, I'm not too sure about him on the mic. But do you think he's getting into the role, or do you think he's got better? And what do you make of him as a sort of a performer in a match so far?
Yeah. I definitely think he has all the tools to be great. It's just WWE way of doing things. When they have a champion like him, they always go down the same avenue. It's always like, I'm not from America, so I'm going to play that card, and I'm going to make your people hate me because I'm going to say that I hate them. That's always been overdone. I think he's better than that. He can do it on his own. He could just go out there and put on the match. Even the way he wrestles, is a bit of a throwback. He wrestles like he's from sort of late 80s to early 90s, that kind of style. Which is, I haven't seen that for a while, so that's a welcome change of pace. I just wish that they would not fall back on the Singh brothers as often as they do. And some of the endings to his matches just way beyond questionable, like that Punjabi prison, and then they just bring out Great Khali up with no context. He just interfered, and then we hear nothing about it since then. It's just, a little bit of consistency, and if you are going to do something like that, at least explain it.
I mean, I think it's good because it's fresh and it feels like they're really putting a lot into it. I mean, effort-wise, with the production value, I feel like this is a Vince McMahon thing. This is a Vince McMahonism. He is enjoying creating all this. This is definitely a throwback to his kind of building someone for Hulk Hogan. This would have been exactly the same plot, Matt, if Hogan was around. It would have been, you get this guy and it's all about Hogan rolling into WrestleMania and getting beating the bad guy down for the fans. It's that sort of thing, isn't it? Which of course is what used to happen, for the first sort of 8 WrestleManias at